Hey everybody, David Swor here with DJ Cox, the bandwagon LA Dodgers fan. No, I'm just kidding. DJ's liked the Dodgers for a while. I just had to throw that in there. But we are back once again for another episode of Frenemies. DJ, it's baseball eve. I couldn't
Oh,
be more excited, man.
oh man, I'll tell you what, David. My whole day tomorrow consists of nothing but baseball. We're on spring break right now, and I have absolutely nothing to do. I can't go to Wrigley, which is what my number one thing to do. Uh, that would obviously be the number one thing, but there's only like 20-25% of fans let in. And right now, I'm pretty sure the ticket prices are out of the range of what I want to pay for them. So, plus, it's going to be like 30 degrees tomorrow with the wind chill. So, I'm good, man. I will be watching it from the comfort of my house on my big screen TV, and I've, I got groceries coming tomorrow, so I've scheduled my groceries around the game. It's just is what it is, man. Once 120 hits, until whenever, it's gonna be baseball, man. It's opening day. I am absolutely pumped for the Cubs, for the Dodgers, for baseball in general, obviously to come back. It's been a long break. It seems like even more of a long break for this off season for some reason. Just seems
Yeah.
like with a lot of stuff going on in the world that it's been a long time again. So I'm excited with you, man. And what are the Yankees playing tomorrow, David?
They're playing Toronto. Garrett Cole against Ryu. That's going to be pretty interesting. I know that the Blue Jays are going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder. So it's going to be some good times. How about the Cubs?
Yeah, the Cubs have got the mighty Pirates at 120. I don't know, special little 120 gadgets there, and we'll see. They got Hendricks on the mound, and the Pirates have Joe Smith pitching for them because they don't have anybody because they're pretty terrible. So uh, I don't. I honestly don't. I couldn't name one of their five starters right now with all the guys that they got rid of and all that. So it should be a three-game sweep. But the Pirates always play us hard, so we'll probably go 1-2.
Hey, the Pirates, they might be the team that surprises. They might be the Marlins from last year, right? And to run the Cubs out of there, it would be really awesome if the Cubs just started out in a big losing streak and the rumors started flying. Man, it would just make for such good podcasts in the future. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, you're killing me, man. You are absolutely killing me.
Well, DJ, today we're going to talk about the best team in baseball from last year. Pretty much, I was talking about this with somebody today. Most of the time, the best team doesn't seem to win the World Series. It's just usually the team that gets hot. But as we're going to talk about, the Dodgers dominated from start to finish. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the 2020 Dodgers?
From the time I was 8 years old, when Kirk Gibson and the boys led the Dodgers to the World Series title. From that moment on, I've been rooting very hard to see the Dodgers win it all again. Not at the expense of the Cubs, but because they've had a lot of battles in the playoffs recently. But once the Cubs get knocked out, I've always pulled for the Dodgers. And it finally happened, David. It was the year. It was a weird year. It was a short year, but nonetheless, it still counts. And they ran the table, David. This is a 43-17 season in a 60 game. It was dominant. It was unbelievable from the beginning to the end. They did not even come close to looking like they were vulnerable. This team was so deep, just running guys out there every single day in that lineup that could start for anybody. 12 different guys. The starting rotation out of this world, even with guys that opted out. The bullpen was unbelievable as well. It finally happened. It's exciting, Dodgers fans. I'm sure it's been a long time. They won the World Series 4-2 over the Rays in an awesome World Series. That was a lot of fun to watch. Regardless of who you were rooting for, there was some pretty cool games in that World Series. Even the Rays game where they walked it off was an instant classic game in that World Series. And Dave Robert, I gotta hand it to him, David, because he managed this game like perfect in Game 6, like just absolutely awesome. You gotta hand it to him. A lot of times a manager can kind of sit under he doesn't have too much of a factor in things, but in this World Series, man, we saw managers come into play big time. And, obviously the Rays with pulling Blake Snell like they did, and with Roberts' handling of the pitching staff in Game 6. It goes to show you, man, they may not get as much credit as people want to give them. You know, a lot of times people want to say their manager doesn't really matter. Well, I kind of don't really agree with that. I feel like how they handle their pitching staff is a huge part of how good of a manager they will be. And Dave Roberts nailed it in Game 6. Keeping Julio on the mound to close it out was absolutely awesome instead of going to Kenley, just because Kenley is the closer, so to speak. You know, you go with your gut sometimes and it works out. You don't have to go with what, you know, and that's what kind of bit the Rays a little bit there in the end. But won the wild card 2-0 over the Brewers. They just kind of ran them over, really, to be honest with you. 3-0 over the Padres in the NLDS. And yeah, that was really surprising, David. But those games were like a few plays away from being a series, to be honest with you. That one wasn't as easy. The 3-0 looks easy, but the Padres hung with them and played them really tough. And, you know, that was a really good series. 4-3 over the Braves after being down 4-1 in that series. Or 3-1 down in that 3-1 in that series. I'm sorry, and they came back and won it 4-3. That was an unbelievable comeback. I honestly, David, I told you this because, you know, nobody calls me a liar here about this. I was telling all you guys that they were still going to win this series against the Braves when they were down 3-1, and sure enough, they did. Man, they just had too much firepower to be shot down like that. And I thought the Braves played really well against them, but they definitely collapsed. And then they won the World Series 4-2 over the Rays. Corey Seager, David, had 20 RBI in the playoffs. I still can't believe that. Unbelievable. It was actually legendary, to be honest with you. He had 41 ribbies on the season, had batted .307 with a .358 on base percentage.
Stop right there, Ray.
You got it, buddy.
I'm not very okay, but if that, I mean, that comes up to like 140 RBI pace. I mean, something crazy for Corey Seager. That is insane.
Yeah.
We always knew he was a stud, but did you ever think Corey Seager would hit for, 140 RBIs in a season? And then he didn't stop there. He did it in the playoffs too. That is crazy.
It really is. And, when he had the Tommy John surgery, which is very rare for a position player to have that surgery, I was a little worried, be more so than I would be for a pitcher. Pitchers can come back from that very easily. With the position players, you worry a little bit because they don't throw as much, obviously. They do a lot of different things with their throwing. So for him to come back from that and be fine like he was and to hit like he did was truly amazing. And I've seen a lot of things going into 2021 calling him that he's got a shot at winning MVP this year. Not sure I believe that, but a lot of people do think he's got a shot. So my dude, Chris Taylor, who is, up there with Kershaw, my two favorite guys in this team by far, 32 RBI and a super utility role. That was absolutely an awesome season by him too. He had a great year. And Dave Roberts deserves a lot of credit for the way he handled everything this year for the Dodgers. So 2020 was absolutely awesome. Something I'll never forget. Something Dodgers fans will obviously never forget. What a great season, David. So what was your take on it, bud?
Yeah, I mean, total domination. They were on a 116 win pace, which set a record. Would have tied a record.
The Mariners.
Yeah. Yep. And not only did they bash their way through, we talked about Betts, Seager, all those guys that they had, Bellinger, but first in ERA, this pitching staff is ridiculous. And honestly, it got better. I mean, on paper anyway. We're going to talk about the additions and subtractions here in a minute, but it's just so deep. You look in that bullpen, and honestly, a lot of these guys weren't big names in this bullpen. I was looking down through some of these stats, and guys like Adam Kolarek had great seasons. Dylan Floro, great season. Pedro Baez, Josh Spores. I mean, all these guys that just kind of came up and just gave them a few innings here or there. They didn't let the team down, man. I mean, it's pretty wild, honestly. It's amazing. They definitely got it working there in LA. So amazing season, historic season. That's their 8th straight division title. I didn't realize that either. 8 straight. And so I don't know if you remember this. Last year there was a few whispers about Dave Roberts, and I think those are all put to bed now.
Yep.
After that season. It just goes to show you how hard it is to do this. 8 straight. That's pretty dominant. But it takes a little bit extra to get that World Series. So, Interesting offseason for the Dodgers, DJ. So we know that the Padres were wearing it out, and I feel like the Dodgers may have started sweating a little bit. So let's go through. Let's first talk about the losses. The Dodgers lost, I don't want to say some cornerstone players, but some guys who had been around for a while. So they lost Ross Stripling. They lost Kike Hernandez to the Red Sox. That's a biggie. Jock Peterson to the Scrubs. Alex Wood, which I'm not sure where he went. Where did he go,
Giants.
DJ? Giants, okay.
Yep.
Dylan Floro to the Marlins. Jake McGee to the Giants. Josh Spores to the A's. Adam Kolarek, where did he end up, DJ?
The A's.
To the A's. Pedro Baez.
Astros.
All right, and anybody else you want to add there? Those are the big names.
Yep, that's it. Terrence McGee to the Braves, and I think you mentioned Jake McGee to the Giants. So yeah, Kike and Jock are the two big ones here. Like you said, those are cornerstone guys, and honestly, Pedro Baez too. Really, Baez was for a very long time one of their their eighth inning guy. To be honest, with you, eighth inning guy, and he was dominant for many years there in those 8 title runs. That you said in a row. So he's a big part of that bullpen for a very long time. And the Astros are getting a good reliever because I still think he's got a little bit left in the tank. So that was tough to see him go. I'm not overly concerned about that one with the guys they picked up, but Jock and Kike, that is tough. When you see guys like that, those were two of the guys, to be honest with you, David, that made this team so much more special, is because Jock has got a starting job. Kike's got a starting job. Those two can start almost anywhere else, to be honest with you. They can't start for the Dodgers, and Jock really didn't either. He played a lot of games, and so did Kike, but they were utility guys just bouncing in and out of the lineup. Jock didn't play against lefties. Kike kind of was a super sub that would come in late in games and play D and just mash homers off the bench. And so you need those type of players on your team to be very deep like they were, and it showed the value of those guys that have those type of players. When you in the National League, you run out there 8 guys every night. A lot of teams can only run those 8 guys out there. When they go to the bench a little bit, they take a big shot. Dodgers don't take any shots off the bench, man. These guys roll out all kinds of lineups. You got Gavin Lux and Chris Taylor to play second, with Kike to play second. You got all kinds of combinations you can go with. And so it's taken a little bit of a hit as far as the depth of the bench. It has to with those two guys, losing those guys for sure. But wish him nothing but the best. Obviously, Jock's with the Cubs now, so I'll get to root for him tomorrow really hard, as he's in that starting lineup for the Cubbies. And Kike in Boston there, they'll forever be Dodgers in my mind. And great careers, and tough to see them go, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree. This is a little bit hairy. I think this is hairier than people think that it is. I think about the Yankees from the 90s and late 90s going into the 2000s. Those guys that did it in the 90s were great teammates. I mean, you could say they were stars, but not necessarily superstars. And so the Dodgers are kind of undergoing the transition that the Yankees went through, where they are adding maybe some bigger name players here and there, a la Trevor Bauer, and letting some of these guys go. And the Yankees kept winning through the 2000s, the early 2000s, and so it worked for them. But it's an interesting dynamic that they're going to have to juggle here. I mean, these were key guys that are gone. I agree with you. Kike and Jock are the most important losses that they had. So let's talk about their additions. We went through the bullpen losses that they had. And those were 4 or 5 guys, pretty strong. And so to replace them, they got Tommy Kahnle, which he won't be pitching this year. Tommy Kahnle is a stud lockdown reliever. He's as good a setup man as there is. So they're banking on him coming back next year. And I didn't realize this, but they signed Brandon Morrow. And, man, this is one of those deals where you can just tell they may know something someone else doesn't. I remember those days when Brandon Morrow was the man. And it just feels like they may know something here. So, DJ, he was a Cub for a minute. What can you tell us about Morrow? Is he going to pitch this year? What's the deal?
It'll be interesting to see, though. The problem is, David, and I'm not sure, and if he rebounds and can come back healthy, he's a great pitcher. The problem is all those years where he was running out there with the Dodgers, they used him a ton. They really did. I don't want to say the word overuse, but he put up a lot of innings in that bullpen over those years. And when he came to the Cubs, we were really excited because he was just, like you said, an absolute animal. And he never lived up to his potential because his arm just wouldn't come there. It wouldn't go. And we re-signed him for 2020, and he never pitched a game for the Cubs last year. And he missed almost the end of 19, I believe, as well. And so if he can find it, and this is what the Dodgers are doing, David, is like you said, they're just stashing guys that, hey, if Morrow never finds it again, okay, whatever. Like we burn money basically here, so if he doesn't, then so be it. But we know that if he comes back healthy, he is an absolute stud. And it's like the same thing they did with Tommy there from the Yankees, like you're talking about. I mean, he's a stud too. And you got to see him pitch a lot in New York. And if he comes back, man, wow, you all of a sudden have got two absolute studs in that back end. If not for this year, for next year. So I agree, man.
Yeah, pretty crazy. They also added another one of those guys, Corey Knebel.
Yeah.
And, a couple years ago, one of the top relief pitchers in the league. And here he is, again, you go back to Blake Trinan. Whatever was going on with him got fixed. I saw a video of Trinan throwing a sinker today at 100 miles an hour. It's unhittable. It's unhittable. Also Jimmy Nelson. And this is interesting because it turns out he's made the bullpen. Last year he kind of struggled. They obviously saw something there in Nelson to bring him back again this year. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Again, I think he won 13 or 15 games a few years back. So obviously they see something in him. He's made the roster. James Pazos, former Yankee prospect. I think he played for the Mariners some. And then the biggie, Trevor Bauer. So that's the one that felt like a little bit of desperation there, DJ.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that?
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. I didn't even think it was a possibility for a while there. I had all kinds of different teams, expected that. I thought it would get him first. But when it came down to the Mets and the Dodgers, David, to be honest with you, I'm like, man, here's the thing. And I thought what I was wrong about, a few of the guys that, Jake Odorizzi in particular, that I thought would sign with the Cardinals because he grew up right around there. But I thought, Bauer he's a California guy, and that's got to have some pull, man. It really does. I mean, it just is what it is. Baseball players are known to love where they came from. It's just almost everybody does. So
Yeah.
I thought when it came down to the Dodgers and the Mets, I thought it was getting real. I'm like, holy cow, this is almost like when you're playing a PlayStation game and you're the general manager and you just go out and get whoever you want and throw them on your team. That's how the Dodgers feel, especially after they got Bauer. I was like, are you kidding me with this rotation now? Like, it's off the charts. And they had to counter the Padres, though, David, because once the Padres are full strength next year, they've got 8 stud starters, like studs. So the Dodgers have 7 now. So, I mean, they had to counter. They had to do something big. And boy, did they ever do something big. It was a huge contract with opt-outs, I believe, after every year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how that really worked out, but unbelievable signing and big one for the Dodgers, no doubt.
Yeah. Did you have anybody to add to that list?
Yeah, Tim Federowicz in a minor league deal from the Rangers, Matt Davidson from the Reds, and Garrett Clevenger from the Phillies rounds it all out. But you name the rest of them. So minor little moves there, but yeah, like you said, they shored up the bullpen and got a huge arm in that rotation. So good offseason for them, no doubt.
Yeah. Let's talk about the lineup. Not much has changed. I mean, a few minor tweaks in the lineup, but pretty much everybody's back. Talk about that lineup a little bit.
You got it, man. Mookie Betts will lead off. 16 bombs, 39 ribbies last year, 292, 366 on base. Outstanding playoff performance, both with the glove and the bat. He was unreal. I just couldn't believe some of the catches he was making. The shoelace catch that he made and the 2 catches at the wall really saved the Dodgers there in the playoffs a little bit. So he showed how versatile he is, how good he can actually play. And I forgot he plays a little second base too, if you want him to. He could go in and play the infield a little too. So he's an awesome athlete, one of the best players in the game, and so lucky to have him, big part of the championship team last year. Corey Seager at shortstop, 15 bombs, 41 ribbies, 307, 358. We talked about his year already. Outstanding playoff, MVP of everything in the playoffs. Justin Turner got re-signed and will bat third. Your third baseman, 4 bombs, 23 ribbies, 307 batting average, 400 on base. Unreal. He walks a lot. gets hit by pitch a lot as well. So that's 1 through 3. And then you go Max Muncy as your cleanup hitter, who first baseman, 12 bombs, 27 ribbies. He actually bat 192 last year, which kind of surprised me a little bit. 331 on base, though, which is really good. So he's on 1 out of 3. So he's another guy that walks a lot as well. Will Smith, the catcher, outstanding offensive performance. 8 bombs, 25 ribbies, 289, 401 on base. Cody Bellinger, your 2019 MVP is going to bat 6 for you. That's how loaded they are. I mean, come on. That's crazy. 12 bombs, 30 ribbies, 239, 333 on base last year. AJ Pollock in left field, 16, 34, 276, 314. And then Gavin Lux is going to get a shot this year to take the second base job. 3 bombs, 8 ribbies, 175, 246. And then you got your super sub, Chris Taylor, who will start a lot of games for them as well. So you can almost count him as a starter as well in that lineup. 8 bombs, 32 ribbies, 270, 366 on base. On the bench, they got Austin Barnes, the backup catcher, which he was awesome. Matt Beatty is a stud, young prospect there for them. Edwin Rios as well had a good year last year and was actually going to play third base if they didn't sign Turner. So very, very studly offense. Didn't change much from last year, like you said, David. They only lost a couple bench guys on that team who are starters for normal. So what do you think of the lineup?
Yeah, so a couple things. I got to ask you something. So you remember back in the day when we were growing up, the big spots where you wanted your hitters were 3 and 4, which in this case would be Turner and Muncy, which I would have to say is probably their 6th or 7th best hitter in this lineup. So what's going on with the evolution of these lineups? We talked about the Yankees. They're batting Hicks third. What is this, DJ? I don't get it.
It's not how I would make my lineup out either, to be honest with you, David. I agree with that 100%. I would start with Mookie and Corey. That makes sense to me. But a 39-year-old Justin Turner to me is batting 7th for you. I'm just being honest with you. I think he's got a year left in the tank, maybe 2 at the most. But Cody Bellinger's got to be hitting 3rd for you. I mean, that's your 2019 MVP. And to be honest with you, David, if you look at it from this perspective and you go Mookie, Corey, and Cody, 1, 2, 3, you've got 3 legitimate MVP candidates right there going 1, 2, 3. And I don't know why you don't do that. The thing that also bothers me about this too, David, is obviously, I'm being obvious here, if you bat 1, 2, or 3 in the lineup, you get more plate appearances in a 162 game season.
Right.
You just totally do. Like, why would you not want your best players batting more times throughout the season than, a lot of those guys will roll around to the 4th time in the order, and you're coming to the end of the game. You want the 1, 2, 3. I mean, I don't get it. I really don't. You're just so right about it. I would put Bellinger 3rd, and I don't get it either.
I'm sure there's a reason behind it. I would just love to hear what it is. I mean, I guess it's smart maybe to split those guys up, but that way you got everybody spread out. But I just don't get it. I mean, I can honestly understand Turner at 3, maybe. I don't get Muncy at 4. It just makes no sense to me. But like I said, it seems to be a thing. So it's interesting. This lineup is awesome. It's awesome. One of the best in the league, no doubt. Loaded for years. Most of these guys are signed for a while, so they're going to be seeing this lineup. And I mean, what do you say? It's one of the best. Obviously, I think they were the best in MLB last year. Yeah, led MLB in runs, home run, and slugging, and they brought everybody back. So good luck to everybody this year with that lineup. So let's hop on over to the pitching staff, DJ. We talked about this off air. This is almost unfair. Let's just be honest, this is almost unfair. So Kershaw, Hall of Famer, he's going to be number 1. 216, 6-2 last year. Bauer won the Cy Young last year. I don't have his stats in front of me, but ridiculous. Walker Buehler, who was everybody's pick to win the Cy Young before last year, is 3rd, 344. Julio Urias, I guess, is penciled in as the number 4, 3-0, 327. And then, okay, let me be honest. A non-Dodger fan, just didn't watch that much of them last year. They're West Coast. I just don't watch that much of them. So I thought Gonsolin and May were just like, okay. prospects. I honestly thought their stats were like in the 4s or maybe high 3s. No. Gonsolin, 2-2, 231. And then Derek May, 257, 3-1. And then to top it all off, you got David Price sitting in there, who I guess is going to be in relief now. DJ, will they lose the game this year? I'm not so sure. Talk about that rotation.
I don't know, David. And here's the thing that I was going to talk about with Howard a little bit too, if he came on tonight. I'm being honest with you when I say this too. They have 7 starters in this rotation. Okay. And I kid you not, Tony Gonsolin, who you could probably say is a 7 guy, I would put David Price as a 6 guy. Tony Gonsolin would battle Zach Davies for the 2nd spot in the Cubs rotation. That would be a fight. And the Cubs, I believe, are going to win the Central. And he's the 7th starter for the Dodgers. How unfair is that? That's unbelievable. We looked at the Cardinals yesterday, David. Gonsolin's the 2nd starter in that rotation. They're hands down, and he's the 7th starter for the Dodgers. Gonsolin started Game 6 of the World Series, David. He was out there in Game 6 of the World Series starting. He didn't last long because that wasn't the plan, but unbelievable, like how much faith they have in David Price, looking good with all the time he took off. Obviously I don't agree with him not playing last year, and he doesn't deserve a World Series ring. I hope they didn't give him one. But 7 guys there that are just unbelievable. And Dustin May deserves to be in that rotation. I would not put him in the bullpen. He needs to be starting every 5 days. It's time for him to go. Urias is also an absolute stud. There was some talk early that they were going to close with Urias, because they did that in Game 6 of the World Series, and he looked so good doing it. So I think that they're just going to do the same thing they did. They run out the 7 guys. Somebody goes down, they just put them right in there into the rotation. It's nice to have that depth, man. And you're going to battle injuries. And Buehler last year was the one that battled all the injuries in the regular season. If you notice, he was 1-0 last year. He had a blister problem that just kept popping on him the whole year. And I've never had one of those because I'm not a pitcher, but I can imagine that's something that's very bothersome. Have you ever had a blister like that, David?
One time. It was super annoying. The seams on the ball just do it. And there's really no cure for it. You just have to quit throwing. And you know how it is with a blister. When that skin comes back, it's still tender. And so, you start back too early and it shows back up again. It's hard because you're used to throwing a ball that way, whatever way that is, that's causing that blister. So it's kind of hard to learn to change the grip. It's a rough problem to have. People don't realize, I think the average person looks at that and goes, oh, look, he's out for 15 days with a blister. Oh my gosh, these athletes are such babies. It's harder than you think to try to pitch with a blister. Those ends of your fingers, man, that's what's spinning that ball. And no spin, no break, home runs. So, and it hurts. On top of all that, it hurts. So anyway, I can understand why that's a big problem. And a lot of these guys, it's a continual problem, again, because they're still throwing the ball the same way. And so it's something they have to adjust. So on top of this rotation being insane, and I can already see, I think, how Dave Roberts is going to play this, and I don't blame him. These pitchers aren't built up. I think there's going to be a lot of piggybacking going on, maybe where Kershaw gives you 3 and then May gives you 3 and then you hand it over to the bullpen, something along those lines. But this bullpen, DJ, so you got Kenley Jensen. We know he's had some struggles. He kind of was bringing it back around last year, but he's still above average, I would say, but he's getting iffy. Let's just say it that way. Then you got Blake Trinan, who's ridiculous. Brewster Gratterall, ridiculous. Corey Knebel, used to be ridiculous. I'm assuming he's still going to be that way. And I guess Joe Kelly, who, whatever. I guess what I'm going to say about Joe Kelly. But still, man, I mean, is anybody's bullpen better than this? I mean, we've talked about the White Sox and the Yankees and all that. I told you, I'm kind of down on the Yankees bullpen now with Britton out of it for a little while. I mean, any of those guys I just named could close. Any of them. And like I said, and Urias is sitting there. We know for sure he can close. So it's just unbelievable. So that's going to lead me to the next thing we're going to talk about. DJ, is there a weakness on this team?
No.
There's definitely not. There's not even a weak player on this team.
No.
I mean, there's just no weaknesses. What's the strength? Everything. I mean,
all the above.
There's nothing really stronger than or less strong than anything else. I mean, I really tried to pick this thing apart when I was preparing for this, and
Nope.
there's just nothing to say here. Just nothing.
What do you
It's just that
say?
good.
I
The
agree.
one
I left that blank. Like I'm totally
thing,
with you. Like nothing. Like the only thing, David. Here's the one thing. The only thing I can come up with for a weakness, because I tried hard, was maybe that the fans should start showing up in the first inning and not the third inning. So I'm kind of throwing the fans under the bus here as a team weakness because it's not the players or the manager or the general manager or the owner or anything like that. Uh, Unbelievable, off the charts. And David, the one thing that does worry me, and this is not a weakness, but the last time anybody won back to back was the 1998, 1999, 2000 Yankees. Been a very long time, and a weakness may be just history in general. But this team, as far as everything else on paper, no.
no. Yeah, it's crazy. And to top it all off, the third thing that's going to top it all off, DJ, they have the 10th best farm system in baseball. So there's plenty of prospects in here to talk about. Who you want to talk about, a prospect that may help them?
Josiah Gray, right-handed pitcher, adds to the pitching depth of this team. He's blocked right now. There's no way he's coming up. He has no shot of making the team with a 26-man roster like this. Should be in the show right now, actually. He would pitch if he was still, say he was with the Reds or something like that. They just don't have a spot for him. Dave Roberts says he's really good. He's real high on him. The fastball is real. He's synced it up with some really good breaking balls, and his changeup is one of his pitch pluses. He's 6'1", 190, 23 years old, a second-round pick in 2018 by the Reds. He's had a 13-4 career in the minors and was 12-2 in college for his career. 2.37 overall ERA in the minors and a 1.92 ERA in college at Lemoyne College, which I never heard of before, but I don't care where you pitch. If you have a 1.92 ERA in college, you're really good. So he's a stud. He's, I saw some video on him. He's very, very much ready to go. He looks like he's a pitcher that could help in the bullpen right now and eventually along the lines as a starter. I'm not sure he's ready to be a full-time starter yet in the pros, but I think he's one of those guys that you kind of build up through the bullpen to see if he can be a starter. So it's amazing that this team has prospects that are ready to go, and there's just nowhere for them to go right now. So, if some injuries happen or something like that, we could see him this year. But if not, then we'll see him the following year, maybe. Unless the Dodgers just keep reloading with guys that are proven. So, what do you got, David?
Well, just to piggyback on what you said there before I get into my guy, poor old Edwin Rios. You get a little PT last year, hit 8 bombs in the meantime, and they signed Turner to a 4-year deal, I think, or a 3 or 4-year deal. I mean, that's got to be discouraging, right? I mean, I guess if there is a weaker, I'm not going to say weak, a weaker link in the lineup, maybe at first base there with Max Muncy, you don't like that average too much, be at 12 homers still. I mean, are you waiting? If you're a prospect, are you waiting for, I don't know what you're waiting on. Maybe an injury from Turner. And even if that happens, you got Chris Taylor sitting over there. I mean, it would just be discouraging, honestly, to be a prospect in this system because you ain't coming up. And honestly, you're not getting traded either because they don't need anything.
Yep.
So anyway, the guy I wanted to talk about was Zach McKinstry. He's actually their 15th prospect. He doesn't get a lot of hype, but when you're in a deep farm system, this is what happens. This dude has mashed wherever he's been. He was a 33rd round draft pick out of Central Michigan, actually. He plays the outfield and a little bit of infield, so he's could someday slot into a role a la Chris Taylor. In 2019, he broke out, hit 300 with 19 homers between double and triple A, and then went 2 for 7 in a little brief cameo in September last year. And so he's got good arm strength, good versatility. He can play all over the place. He's a solid defender at second base, so you might want to keep an eye out for him there. Play all 3 outfield spots. So, again, this is Chris Taylor light. Maybe this is the guy that they bring up down the line for him. But it's a guy you might steal in the roster, even from the beginning. I haven't seen their roster to know if he made it or not, but I know he was still in the conversation there as spring training was winding down. So keep an eye out for him. Could be somebody that could be interesting down the line. So, DJ, position battles, do we have any? Kinda, right? Kinda
I
at
mean,
second base.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of one. I just I don't know, man. It's kind of a weird situation because I obviously want to see Taylor there every day, but Taylor's gonna play somewhere, whether he's playing for AJ one day, for Gavin the next. He's gonna be in the lineup. He just is. He finds a way in there. I mean, he had 32 ribbies last year in 60 games, so you're not gonna sit him long. He's gonna work his way into this rotation, and it's a hard spot to be in a little bit because you want Gavin to play every day. Gavin Luck's a stud, and so this kid is like primed and ready to play every day at second base, and he's not going to. Like, it's just not going to happen with Chris Taylor there. Like, unless somebody goes down and Chris Taylor has to just fill a role for a long time, then Chris Taylor is going to come in and get his. He's going to get his. Like, he just is, and that's Roberts is
Right.
really good at working them guys in there. So you really, realistically, David, you've got 9 starters besides the pitcher that you have out there every day, really. It's just I think Gavin's going to get more time this year than he did last year, and so somebody's going to, somebody's going to give and take a little bit on there. Justin Turner is not no spring chicken, so 162 games may be hard on him now, and so Taylor can fill in for him one day, Pollock the next, and then Gavin. He's going to play. So
I'm fairly shocked, DJ, back to Justin Turner. Again, I just didn't follow the Dodgers that closely, but looking at all the depth that they had, are you kind of shocked that they signed Turner?
I was a little bit. I'm not. I wouldn't say shocked. I kind of figured that they would, and I guess maybe given him the amount of years they gave him. But here's the thing: like when you win the World Series and you're a big part of that, and the thing with Turner is he wasn't gonna sign with anybody unless they gave him a 3 or 4 year deal, and he figured he wanted his last contract, and whether or not he plays that out all the way, we'll see. But it doesn't surprise me. I shouldn't say, but if he were to go, I would have been okay with it. I would have been all right. I mean, you know, I guess since you lost Jock and Kike, it might have hurt a little bit more to lose all 3 of those guys. But I think he's got another year left in the tank. I think he'll be good this year, and then after that, I'm honestly going to be a little bit worried about his production, and we'll see what happens in 2022. But I think for this year, at least, he'll be really solid.
Yeah. I had the same position battle. Lux, and I guess you could say the closer could potentially be a position battle. I think Roberts is going to be smart and play the spots. I don't think Kenley's going to be the sole guy getting saves this year. So I guess you could say that's a little bit of a position battle, but the Dodgers are set. They're set pretty much everywhere, and so nothing to see here really, to be honest with you. So DJ, what's your favorite memory from the Dodgers?
It's got to be, even though this happened this past year, it's still the Kirk Gibson home run in Game 1. It's what made me love the Dodgers, to be honest with you. Off of Dennis Eckersley, who was the greatest closer of that time, on one leg, he wasn't even in the game, and for him to go up there and do what he did, it's still my favorite memory by far. I still think, David, I still to this day believe that the '88 Dodgers are the worst team to ever win a World Series on paper.
Oh wow!
I really believe that. Like, there's nobody on that team that is a Hall of Famer, aside from Don Sutton, whose role was very limited on that team as an older guy. But I mean, it's hard to name unless you watch that team. It's really hard to name that starting lineup. They had guys like Oral Hershiser, who's a Bulldog, who's a borderline Hall of Famer. You had Kirk Gibson, who's also a borderline Hall of Famer because of just all the stuff that he did in his career. In the postseason, has to step up his Hall of Fame credentials a little bit. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's in the you talk about him when you talk Hall of Fame. You don't get very far, but you definitely talk about him. His name will stay there. So you have those 2 guys. But other than that, I mean, you had Mike Scioscia. He was good. Nothing super great. Mike Devereaux was one of your starters. Like, who's that? Like, this team just really, to be honest with you, like, I challenge you to go look at it and see the starting lineup for them. Alfredo Griffin, like, I mean, come on. Like, these guys were nobodies, basically. They ran through the mighty Mets of the 80s. you know how that team was. That team was just full of absolute studs and monsters on that team, and they ran them around in the '88 NLCS and beat them, and went through the Oakland A's of all teams, who were even more studly that season, and beat them too. So how does a team like that win the World Series? I still don't get it. It blows my mind that that lineup is just not even close to something you would think is as a World Series title team. And so it was truly amazing. Tommy Lasorda did an amazing job with that team. And speaking of Tommy, honorable mention, a couple things here. Tommy Lasorda passed away recently. In this offseason for Dodgers fans. So rest in peace, Tommy. That was a huge loss for the game of baseball. He's always at their games, just big part of the Dodgers history. He bleeds Dodger blue. Him falling down when Vladdy threw the bat at him, and him fighting the Philly fanatic are two of my favorite memories, man. Just a lot of fun he was on the field, and I absolutely adored Tommy Lasorda, one of my favorite managers of all time by far. And then obviously I'll give honorable mention to this last year's team that gave me so much joy as well, the 2020 Dodgers. So a lot of great memories from the Dodgers that have given me over these years, but definitely the '88 team. So what about you, David?
Well, I can honestly say Oral Hershiser is probably one of the main reasons I got into pitching. And so my favorite memories regarding the Dodgers really circle around Oral Hershiser, the Bulldog. That was his nickname. And, he's not someone that was physically imposing at all. He wasn't a super hard thrower. He was a pitcher. That's what he was, a pitcher. And he knew how to move the ball around, in and out, up and down. And, man, he was a good pitcher for a long time. And people don't realize Oral Hershiser didn't get any Hall of Fame love. It's really shocking because if you compare him to Kurt Schilling had 216 wins, 3.48 ERA. Hershiser had 204, 3.46 ERA. So he wasn't the sexiest guy in the world. He wasn't, his strikeout numbers weren't going to wow you. He was a great pitcher, and he definitely deserves more Hall of Fame consideration than he got. So, like I said, he got me into pitching pretty much. It's just somebody I always watched out for. And so that's my favorite Dodger memory.
Very cool.
So, DJ, what about the stadium? I'm going to go ahead and just let everybody know I haven't been there, but DJ has. So tell us about the stadium.
Yes, I loved it. Like I said, the fans arrived late, which is really weird to me that they get there so late. Giant parking lot. This is just kind of like, I guess it's called Chavez Ravine, if I'm not mistaken, that it's out there on. And it's like in an area, a gigantic area all by itself. It's huge. Like the whole experience of going there, like the whole ballpark it's just kind of built for that Dodger Stadium to be there. It's really in a cool spot. Our hotel was really close to it as well. They had fireworks night. They let you go out up into the bleachers and watch fireworks, or go on the field and watch the fireworks. And it's really cool, man. I love the announcer. I think he's got a great baseball voice. I just think everything about it is unbelievable. It's my second favorite of all the stadiums I've been to. It's got a lure to it. It's unbelievable, really. It's hard to put into words. If you sit in the bleachers, David, with your family, you can get like a deal that comes with your ticket, actually. So it's really cheap. Like you get all you can eat food in the bleachers in a certain spot. So you bring we both got 4 kids, so we got a lot of mouths to feed, obviously, and the wife and myself. So six of us, obviously, in each of our families. Well, if you buy your ticket, like all 6 of your meals are already paid for when you buy the bleacher spot. So if you ever go there, I highly recommend doing that, because you get Dodger dogs, you get nachos, you get pop, you get anything you want. Like just throw it all on there, take it on your tray, and you go in there, and then if you get hungry later on, you go and get more. So it's pretty cool, man. It's kind of like a cafeteria line when you're in high school. You just go up to it, you like grab everything, and you just keep going. And it's a good setup. You go sit in the bleachers. Like I said, you want something else, you could go back and get it. So I highly recommend. I obviously sit in the bleachers a lot when I go somewhere, but you want to save a lot of money, definitely sit in that bleachers. I can't remember if it was just the right field bleachers that did that. You'll have to look that up for sure, but it was one spot of the bleachers that did that. So it was really cool. A lot of cool shops in there. A lot of history to that ballpark, obviously, when they came there from Brooklyn to LA. and I've been there ever since. So it's one of my favorites, probably number 2 all time for me, but I truly loved it, no doubt.
Awesome. I'd love to get out there someday. The whole LA experience, I think, would be cool. So one of these days, I want to make that happen. So it's time, DJ, to put our predictions out there. So we already know that you're not putting the Dodgers in the World Series. So what's it going to be?
The best team in the league in the world is not going to make the World Series, and that's hard for me to say. But I'm going first place in the NL West. I do think they'll win the division. They'll hold off the Padres, who are absolutely awesome as a team as well. I got to give them a lot of credit for what they did in the offseason. They are loaded. But but then, David, in the NLDS, I believe the Padres are going to return the favor and knock the Dodgers out of the playoffs, which is crazy bold prediction here. But I'm going with the Padres knocking them out of the playoffs this year, which is hard for me to say. But I just think that it's really too hard to win back-to-back anymore. It just hasn't worked out recently. You think a lot of teams that would have done it didn't do it. So history's not on their side. I'm kind of going off of that right now. Are they the best team in baseball? Absolutely. Will they have the most wins in the regular season? Yes. But they will fall a little bit short in the playoffs this year, unfortunately. And I hate saying that, but I think it's the Braves' year. I already said that. I think it's the Braves' turn to win it all. So I don't know. What do you think, David?
They're going to win the World Series, DJ. It's back to back. I can't go against them. There's no reason, no logical reason to go against them other than, like you said, it is hard to win back to back. They're just loaded, man. I do think the Padres are a danger to them. They have a pitching staff that can match up pretty well. They have a lineup that can match up pretty well. I do think the Dodgers are better in both areas, but not by much. So watch out for the Padres. I think it could be something like this where the Padres win the division and the Dodgers still end up winning the World Series, something along those lines. I'm not sure, but I do think I'm going to predict that the Dodgers are going to win the division. They're going to win the World Series. They're going to buzz all through this thing. Again, over 100 wins for sure. And we'll see what happens. We'll find out the start of it tomorrow. So do you know who the Dodgers play?
I do not actually. That's a tough one. I did not get a chance to look up where they're going to be tomorrow to open it up. But whoever it is. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Whoever it is, they're going to be 0-1. That's exactly what I was going to say. Good one, David.
I hear you. So Dodgers teammate, the only one that I know of was a traitor. He was actually a Yankee fan for the time that I knew him, but he claims to be a Dodger fan now. Now, when they fire Dave Roberts, he might become a Marlin fan or something. We don't know. But that's Brian Howard. We're going to give him a hard time tonight. Unfortunately, he was supposed to be here tonight, but Tornado got him the first time, and coaching high school baseball got him the second time. So we understand that. We'll definitely have him back on later. But any other teammates, DJ?
Just old Fernando Velasquez, who came to us for a fall, did not play with us in the spring. Coach recruited him from Los Angeles, actually, and he came over, was a big Dodgers fan, lefty pitcher. Was actually a really good lefty pitcher, but just didn't.
Would have helped us.
Would have helped us a ton, but man, he was just too homesick when he came here. I actually roomed with him to try to help him stick around. I wanted to be his roommate to try to keep him here because we needed a lefty so bad to go with Ben, and just couldn't keep him around very long, and he ended up taking back off and didn't show up in the spring with us. So would have been a really good pitcher, no doubt. And then of course, Howard, the man, just everything about him is awesome. He changed Temple baseball when he arrived, and he made the pitchers a lot tougher when they were out there pitching. He made everybody a lot tougher, because we were all trying to make this thing gel. He was the glue that held it together, man. And he was a lot of fun. He'd make you laugh all night long. Great. He was a roommate of mine as well for a long time. So Howard, we love you, man. And we'll like David said, we'll have you on here pretty soon talking baseball, no doubt, because you're just a blast to have, a big friend of the podcast as well. So we'll definitely have you on. I get it. He's busy coaching that team in Tennessee, that powerhouse team. He's coaching down there. Those guys are gonna be really good. So definitely give him a look for sure as far as his coaching goes, because those guys are gonna make some noise this year. Be a lot of fun for him.
Yep. Well, DJ, I guess it's time to wrap it up. Looking forward to watching some baseball tomorrow. If you guys haven't already subscribed to our podcast, please do so. Please share, help us get some views, and we'll see you later.
Have a good night, everybody. Go Dodgers.